Remmenga joins us for some more free legal advice. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about the jury's role in a trial, I guess, involving a car accident or any sort of accident, and the percentage of blame that can be placed on either party.
It's called proportionment of fault.
Okay.
The jury, as the finder of fact, gets to decide how much of the fault for the accident was caused by the person who's being sued, the defendant, versus how much of it's being caused by the plaintiff, the person doing the suing, or whether there's even a third party that's not involved in the litigation that might have created part of the percentage of the fault.
Okay.
The reason why it becomes a big issue is once the jury decides what percentage of fault each person has, the judge then takes that percentage times the amount of damages the jury finds, the amount of money, and multiplies those percentages. So if the defendant is only 70% at fault, the defendant only has to pay 70% of the damages.
Okay.
It really becomes a problem when things are close.
Yeah.
If the jury decides that the plaintiff caused 50% of the damages and the defendant caused 50%, the judge has to reduce the award to 0.
Oh,
So it's just because it's 50-50 fault, it's neither one is more fault than the other. The thing is even, so the judge awards 0.
Okay.
I can't really explain why, but that's what the senators and congressmen enacted in their law.
Okay.
That at 50-50, it becomes 0.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the defense is going to start arguing, you did something wrong, even though that person may have run a stop sign. Maybe you should have hit your brakes sooner. Maybe they can convince the jury that that's 5% fault. Maybe you should have been paying more attention. They find that you were drinking a soda or something. If they can convince the jury that's 20% at fault, that reduces their liability by that amount. So even though you believe that the other person was at fault, and even if the other person pled guilty to the criminal fine and the traffic charge, that doesn't necessarily mean that a jury can't find you partially at fault for the accident. So that's where we need to start getting witnesses. What did the witnesses see you doing? What did the person say when they first got out of their vehicle? Those type of things can be found by the jury to allocate the fault.
Yeah.
The person jumps out of the vehicle and says, it was totally my fault, I ran the stop sign. The jury might believe that more and not give you any fault than if the person jumps out of the vehicle and immediately says, you should have watched where you're going, even though they ran the stop sign.
Yeah.
Those are the issues that we need to deal with on proportionment.
Yep, and that's why we always talk about it's important to write down all the notes as soon as the accident happens.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Greg. If you have questions for Greg, you can contact him with that info right there on your screen. We'll be right back after